Hey, what's going on everybody? So today Apple released iOS 17.5 to the public. They also released a whole bunch of other software updates for watchOS, iPadOS, tvOS, etc. So we'll go through some of those in another video, but today we're just going to be focusing here on iOS and we'll talk a little bit about iPadOS as well. So this update for me here on my 15 Pro Max came in at just over 1 gigabyte. It was 1.05 gigabytes. That could be larger if you're a beta tester, or it could even be smaller. Maybe you're on a different device or something like that. But anyways, this update has a few new features, a whole lot of bug fixes and things like that. This is one of the last feature updates most likely, because here next month we're going to get iOS 18. So they want to save all of those new features for that big new release. So let's go ahead and talk about what was actually in the release notes. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff in it. So the first thing they talked about was some Apple News changes. So the first thing here is you'll get this new pop-up whenever you open Apple News for the first time, and it's introducing the new Quartiles game, which is a new word game only on Apple News Plus. I guess this is kind of like Wordle, I don't really know. But you can go in and you can play the game. It's free to play to try it out. But this is a new thing here, so they have a new Quartiles game. Also, there is a scoreboard and News Plus puzzles, which gives you access for crossword, mini crossword, and the new Quartiles game. So you can check all that out. You can see the leaderboards up here. Also, there's a new offline mode for Apple News Plus, so it gives you access to the Today feed and News Plus tab when you don't have an internet connection. If you want to use that, you can toggle that on and off in your settings. The other thing Apple talked about on their release notes was new tracking notifications. So basically now what we have, cross-platform tracking detection. So this is going to deliver a notification to you if a compatible Bluetooth tracker that you do not own is moving with you. So it kind of works how AirPods do, or I should say AirTags, not AirPods. If an AirTag that's not linked to your Apple ID is detected to be with you, you'll get a notification on your phone. Well, now they're doing that with third-party trackers as well. So kind of a little bit extra layer of security there. So there's a few other things here that Apple didn't mention, but there are some changes here. So if you're in the EU, you now have the ability to sideload applications from the web. So you'll be able to download those third-party apps, because the EU has a lot of different regulations and laws where they want Apple to kind of diversify away from their own stuff. So not only can you have different app stores, you can now sideload applications if you're in the EU. In the Find My application, there is a new repair mode. So if you go into Find My, you go to one of your devices, and you can swipe on that device and put it into a repair mode. So you take your Apple device to an Apple store or something like that. You can put it in repair mode, so that way you can kind of still keep an eye on your device, because normally you would have turned Find My off if you were taken into the Apple Store. There's a couple little changes to some widgets here. The first one you're going to notice is with the weather widget. For some reason they decided to make it a little bit smaller, so the temperature is now slightly more smaller than it was in the previous version. It is noticeable, and I don't really know if I like it. I didn't mind the previous size of it, but apparently Apple thought it needed to be a little bit smaller there. Also, the podcast widget now kind of updates the color of it with the album art. So if you're listening to something, podcast, and it's kind of like this, it's orange. This is Spotify, not the podcast widget. But if you're listening to something and it has like a blue album art, for example, it'll make the podcast widget blue. So just kind of a slight change there. Also, to do with podcast, in your search function, if you were to search through Spotlight, you'll now be able to see your recently played podcasts. So that's kind of a nice little touch. Another slight little change is in your privacy and security settings. We've always had this thing down here, passkeys access for web browsers, but it didn't have an icon. So Apple's added this little icon here. Also, there's a new thing for universal eSIM install. So if Apple's trying to make that a little bit simpler if you have an eSIM. And then last but not least, there is a books reading goal indicator. So it kind of reminds me of activity rings, except it's for reading books. As far as iPad goes, well, you get all the same new features that we just talked about here, but one thing that is being introduced with the iPads, and I'm guessing this is only going to be on the new iPads that come out from here onward, so I'm sure that Day one, when the iPad Pro, iPad Air start coming out, they'll have this, but now we're going to get the iPad. We'll have battery health and cycle count on it. It's the same way Apple did it with this phone right here, the 15 Pro Max. They added that in so you can see your cycle count. So now you'll be able to see that on your brand new iPads as well. Also, another thing here, bug fixes, security updates. Apple really doesn't tell us what bugs they fix. They never do. I don't know why. But as far as security updates goes, you can go to their website, you can go to the security content, and you can scroll down and you can see all the different security updates for this particular version. You can see there's quite a few of them here. Oh, and one thing I almost forgot to mention is there is a new Pride wallpaper, as you can see right here. It spells out the word Pride, so if we just tap on one of these, we hit add, we'll set as a wallpaper pair. You can see that's what it looks like. And it has this cool animation. As you can see, every time you lock and unlock your device, it changes the background. So it kind of moves the word around each time. I think that's a pretty cool little thing. I wish Apple would do that with more wallpapers. Maybe they will in the future. But yeah, guys, that's basically everything here in iOS 17.5. Let me know what you guys think about this update and what you're most excited for in iOS 18. It's going to be announced to us here in about a month or so. Well, actually, it's more like a couple weeks at this point. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching the channel, and I'll catch you all in the next video.